Okay, listen, pay attention, Africa. You see, this is the part 2 of the video I posted early this week titled Identity Crisis. You see, in that video, I told you about how the then head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, created 12 states in the country. I told you about the Igbo denial, the identity crisis. I told you about how Murtala Muhammad in 1987 created a state that was created from a region that was once peaceful. I told you about the creation of the state called River State. I told you about how all these states were created. I told you about what Chinua Achebe said in his book that was a country. I told you about the fear of Igbo domination. I told you about all these things. I told you about the gumbo diplomacy. I told you about the Machiavellian manipulation. I told you that state is not divine creation, that it is man-made creation, created out of their own Machiavellian manipulation, gumbo diplomacy, and their own sentimental reasons. I told you that it was meant to divide brothers from brothers and families from families, and I promised to do part 2. Okay, I am back from work and I'm doing part 2 right now. Listen, I am linking the creation of state with the creation of the region called the South-South region. Now pay attention. You see, in 1997, the then head of state, Sani Abacha, General Sani Abacha, woke up one morning in 1997, had a tea, probably without a sugar, and then decided to create the South-South region. He decided to seal up what his colleagues started, Yakubu Gowon. You see, the federal government claimed that the creation of the region, South-South region, was to give the minority ethnic groups in the Delta region a stronger political voice, but that was a lie. That is a Machiavellian manipulation, and I'm going to expose that lie now. Pay attention and listen. You see, while the creation of South-South region was meant supposedly to give the minority ethnic groups in that place a stronger political voice, it largely resulted in political fragmentation, weakened alliances, and resulted to continued underdevelopment, and gave the federal government more control over the resources and wealth of that region, while weakening the political bargaining power of the old Eastern region. Listen, if true development and political strength were the goals, then a better approach between the Southeast and the South-South would have been a better strategy. But because their intention was to reduce the influence of the old Eastern region and to gain control over that region's wealth and resources, they created the South-South region for them to have more control over your resources. That is why today, even the oil wells you have in your place, they own the oil wells more than you. 70% of the oil well in the South-South region in Nigeria are being controlled by aliens. Are you not aware? Your voice would have been larger and stronger if you were united. But because you have been divided, they now have a control over you. That is Machiavellian manipulation. Let me tell you where they learned it from. They learned it from your previous colonial master, the British. They are the kings of divide and rule. So they handed over to your leaders what they use in dividing us in Africa. And your leaders are also using the same thing to divide you in your respective country. And you have become a victim of gumbo diplomacy and Machiavellian manipulation. Now listen, have you ever asked yourself, why was the region not created from other states that were created in other regions? Why must it be from the states that were created from the old Eastern region? Because listen, there are 6 states that makes up the South-South region. You have Akwa Ibom State, Cross River State, Bayelsa State, River State, Edo State, Delta State. But 4 of these states, Akwa Ibom, Rivers, Bayelsa, okay, Bayelsa State, Cross River State, they were from the old Eastern region. Then you have 2 old Western states, that is Edo State and Delta State. But let me now shock you. Even in that Delta State, you have Igbo-speaking people there, and Yoma people, they are Igbo people. And even in Edo State, you still have Igbo-speaking people there. So you have to understand that the creation of states on the 27th of May, 1967, and the creation of the region, South-South region, in 1997, did more harm than good to the old eastern region. The aim was to take them away from what they thought was the black gold of the country, which was the crude oil. Use your head before they use it for you. They used you, and they used you well. They used you well. They divide you and took you away from your brothers. As it is done above, so it is done below. What they did to us in Africa, generally, how they divided us. Today we cannot travel to Ghana or to Maputo without a paper. One continent, yet we can't see our brothers. Divide and rule strategy is what they have. That's what they use for you. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that it was only the states that were mostly created from the old eastern region that were given their own region? Why? Why was a region not given to the other people? You're going to tell me the cock and bull story that your geography teacher told you in school. Even your geography teacher in your school was told what to teach. That is why curriculum is being designed by the government themselves. Pay attention. Let me tell you something. You see, the lies that you think, okay, is that the creation of South region was to give those people power, but it was not. Okay, do you think that if it was to give you a proper development, that they would have shut down the seaport in Calabar, shut down the seaport in Port Harcourt? Okay, these are the things that would have given you proper development in your region. Okay, but they created the region to limit you from having a bargaining power. That is what you need to understand. You need to understand that the creation of states and region is man-made, and the creation of the South region was a political creation to divide brothers from brothers. You need to understand. You need to understand that the creation of the South region was a political creation, that these things were created for their own sentiments and not really to empower you. That's what you need to understand. But you come to the comment section and argue because you have refused to read, you have refused to research, you have refused to study, you have refused to consult those who have read. All you want to do is to argue for the sake of arguing. But listen, the videos I make are not just for you, they are for your children. Because tomorrow your children will see that there was a young man called Modern Day Tankra who warned their fathers. You know, the mother hen said, I am not screaming so that the hawk will stop calling my chicks. I am screaming so that the world will hear my voice. I am screaming for posterity to know that the knowledge and the wisdom that was given to me, I use it to enlighten you, but you refuse to listen. Although I thank God that 90% of the people in my comment section understood the message. You have to understand. Don't just argue for the sake of arguing. Reason and understand, Africa. Reason and understand, okay? Remember, I am still going from schools to schools, giving free books to African students so that they will read and understand African books. And you yourself, before you argue, come and request for books. All you need to do is to go to my bio right here on TikTok. You see your WhatsApp contact. WhatsApp it and tell you need a book, and book will be given to you in less than 24 hours. I'll give you any book you request. I'll look for it and buy it and give it to you free of charge. We don't have money to give, but we have books to give to empower you with knowledge. I love you, Africa. I love you, Nigeria. I love you, Ghana. I love you all. Remember, Wisdom Africa is the principal thing. He who has ears, let him listen to the words of the ones screaming in the wilderness. For Wisdom Africa is the principal thing. Aha!